okay, that the acoustical tests they did as a control were even wrong at the time they did them. So, because there is no credible evidence for any of these other things, I can't say that there was a conspiracy if there's no credible evidence for it. What I can tell you is that there were 3 shots fired, that 1 bullet did wound 2 people, and that the 3rd shot killed the President of the United States, and that it was fired from the rear of the in the depository. If there was someone on the knoll, they didn't fire a shot, and there is no evidence that there was anyone at the knoll who did fire a shot that is credible.
A San Jose man claims that he has solved the mystery that's kept our nation spellbound for these past 31 years. David Winter reports now on a high-tech theory about who killed JFK.
We feel that it has been solved.
He was only 18 months old when President Kennedy was assassinated, but he says he's found what thousands have been trying to find for 31 years. Cal Korff says he knows who killed JFK.
Although it's hard to believe it, there was no conspiracy. It was a lone nut that killed the president that day.
Korff runs a San Jose consulting firm. He's producing interactive software he says proves his JFK theory indisputably.
Korff's interest in the JFK assassination started here, ironically, at John F. Kennedy High School in Fremont. When he was a freshman, he did an extra credit report on the assassination, and he didn't get all the answers he had hoped for.
Korff's high school report was so thorough, he says the House Assassination Committee threatened to subpoena his research if he did not hand it over. Then the committee discounted his findings.
It was their treatment of me and their denial that our research was accurate that made me interested in sticking with it.
He did, and 17 years later, Korff's research is done. It shows, among other things, it was 1 bullet from Lee Harvey Oswald that hit both Kennedy and Governor Connolly. Korff claims you can see when the bullet flies out of Connolly's chest and lifts his lapel. Korff claims to disprove dozens of other theories, like one portrayed in a book by the woman in the red raincoat, who says she chased after an assassin immediately after the shooting. Korff shows she didn't leave the sidewalk for a while. His CD-ROM software will interactively allow people to shoot Kennedy in order to try different theories. Korff knows his conclusions will not satisfy all conspiracy believers, but he challenges them to dispute his research. He says after 31 years, the American people have a right to know their history. In San Jose's Berryessa district, David Winter, KNTV News.
On November 22nd, 31 years ago today, someone shot and killed President John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Texas. A federal commission concluded a lone gunman did it, but in the years since, millions of people have come to doubt that conclusion. Now in San Jose, a researcher says a computer program he's written gives the definitive answer. San Jose Bureau Chief Lloyd LaQuesta has that report.
Dozens of books have been written about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Most of them claim it was a conspiracy and that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone.
You can see as the limousine is coming out, okay, there's Governor Connolly, and then there's the lapel flipping up, and Kennedy's already back here.
Cal Korff is putting the finishing touches on a computer program that he says gives the definitive answer about who shot JFK. The CD-ROM software uses the famous Zapruder film, the home movie that captured the Dallas shooting of President Kennedy. The software allows a computer user to try out different scenarios.
You can select the type of weapon, the distance, the location, the number of assassins, play the computer version of the Zapruder film, see which way the body falls, and that will tell you how right or how wrong you are.
And after 17 years of studying every detail of the Kennedy assassination, Korff says he is positive that Oswald fired 3 shots at the motorcade in a space of 8 seconds. The first shot missed, the second shot went through Kennedy, then hit Texas Governor John Connolly sitting in the front seat. And
the third shot and final shot, fired after 8.5 seconds after the first shot, hit Kennedy in the head and killed him. There was no foreshot, there was not an assassination conspiracy that day. It was a lone nut, Lee Harvey Oswald, and there was no man on the knoll shooting at him. That is a myth, and it can be easily dispelled.
Cal Korff was just 18 months old on the day of the Kennedy assassination. His interest or obsession with the case began when he was 15 years old, when he wrote a paper about the case for a high school English class. His school, John F. Kennedy High in Fremont. He and a classmate did the first personal computer analysis of the grassy knoll to prove that there was a man there. Korff says the man was not holding a gun, but a Coke can. The report Korff wrote caught the attention of the House Assassination Committee in 1978.
And the way they just said you're wrong when I knew we were right rubbed me the wrong way. And that caused me to stay with it for these 17 years.
Korff says those years cost him thousands of dollars and hours in research, but he feels he's done his job and it's time to put the Kennedy conspiracy theory to rest.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to walking away, and it's over, and I've said my piece, and it's up to someone else to try to disprove it.
Korff's book and CD-ROM are expected out sometime next year. In San Jose, Lloyd LaQuesta for the 10 o'clock news.
So the House Assassinations Committee was wrong when they said there were 4 shots?
Yes, because here's one reason their acoustical thing was wrong. When they did their acoustical reconstruction as a control, there was a train parked on the Stemmons Freeway the day of the murder. They didn't park a train on the Stemmons Freeway when they did their acoustical test. They should have done that, because if a train is parked on the freeway overpass, it's going to affect the acoustics of any noise, especially if you've got a recording of it, you're trying to compare to it. The committee, until the acoustical discovery, quote unquote, was ready to conclude there was no conspiracy. And that was in the last few weeks of the investigation when they thought they found evidence in this dictabelt recording. The recording does not record the actual assassination. You can hear a little bell tolling in the background. That bell is from the trademark. You don't hear the engine revving at all, the siren on. It wasn't from Officer McLean's motorcycle that had happened. That recording was made at the trademark from a microphone that was stuck open on another motorcycle that was waiting for the presidential motorcade to get there, which never arrived, of course, because of the assassination. And the key is that bell. There is no bell in Dealey Plaza, but there is in the trademark. It's a little miniature of the Liberty Bell, and people can go by and ring it, and that's what you hear. All these high-paid experts missed this, but a drummer named Steve Barber found that when he got a copy of the record and was listening and could hear the noise in the background. And he said, hey, what's this? And that noise occurred 2 minutes after the assassination had already taken place. So if the dictabelt recording didn't record the event in the first place, it doesn't matter what acoustical test they did. And when they did do the acoustical test, they never parked a train up there to act as another sound barrier like they should have.
I wondered if you lend any credence to the report that was done on A&E, the men who killed Kennedy, regarding the Corsican connection.
No, we looked into that. It turns out that Lucien Sardi, who is one of the alleged assassins, was he's dead now, but it's funny because that series is, what, last night episode 5 aired or something like that on A&E. The Men Who Killed Kennedy has so many errors in it that I think it's probably worse than Oliver Stone's movie. It turns out that one of the alleged Corsican assassins was in the Navy at sea at the time. Another one was in jail at the time, and the other one was wanted. They didn't know where he was. It also turns out that the individual that the Justice Department deported that day out of Dallas was not Lucien Sardi. So there's no evidence at all that's credible that there was a Corsican hit team. But that was one of the things we did run down. In fact, I almost had to go to France visit the prison where he was to get to the bottom of it. But once we found the naval records, we were able to show that the person couldn't have been there at the time. Garrison never met with any Mr. X. Mr. X was created as a way to float a theory that Stone has, which came via Fletcher Prouty.
How do you feel about Fletcher Prouty and what he had to say about the JFK assassination?
Well, Fletcher Prouty has been caught faking national security memos that were supposedly sent to the president. So anything Fletcher Prouty, if he ever gave me anything, I'd have to go back to the original source and double check it because I wouldn't trust it. Some of what he says is pretty valid, but I don't see how it connects to the president's assassination. Coup d'etats do occur all the time. There was one in Vietnam with the Nago brothers just before Kennedy was murdered. But a lot of what Fletcher Prouty has come out with, from what we can tell and prove, is not verifiable, unfortunately. And some of the memorandums that he did produce were fakes. And in fact, he had a fallout with Oliver Stone near the end of JFK because Stone himself realized that he had been misled. And that's why parts of the movie of JFK were changed at the last minute. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Without going into a lot of detail, is there any credibility to the recent discovery of the driver limousine through enhancement, seeing him firing at the president?
When you see the Zapruder film run and you see the stills from the frames, you will see that the driver never did fire on the president's limousine at all. Instead, what Mr. Greer did, the driver, incredibly, is he slowed the limousine down almost a near standstill when he knew there was a problem. And he looked back, and at the instant he looked back, that's when the headshot hit. And that's when the limousine took off. But as far as the claim that he turned around and killed the president, there is no evidence for that.
Of all the claims for a conspiracy, of there being a man on the grassy knoll, of the CIA wanting him killed, or of the security guards, looking the other way at the time, the equivalent of that, I'm saying that there's no credible evidence that holds up when you apply science to it. As incredible and as ridiculous as it sounds, it does seem to be that there was one bullet that caused the injuries in those two people. What I can tell you is that there were 3 shots fired, that one bullet did wound 2 people, and that the 3rd shot killed the President of the United States, and that it was fired from the rear of the in the depository. If there was someone on the knoll, they didn't fire a shot, and there is no evidence that there was anyone at the knoll who did fire a shot that is credible.
What do you think of William Cooper's research?
Well, the question was, what do I think of Bill Cooper's research? I challenge anybody to disprove ours, and if they can, I will jump on their bandwagon. I have studied Mr. Cooper's research to a degree, and all I can say is ours contradicts his, and at least with ours you can take it home and do whatever you want with it. I disagree with it, and we can get into however much detail you want on it tomorrow. I've never met him personally. I guess I will today since my table's next to his, but anyway, it can't be verified by anyone else, nor has anyone else's scenario. And the reason CNN had us on the show last year on the 30th anniversary, where I bumped Gerald Posner off the show, was because ours was the only one that had come up as independently verifiable.
How is Total Research able to finance all of this extensive long-term research?
Well, I'm a computer nerd, I'm not married, I have no life, and I've spent $100,000 of my own money doing it. So my hobbies are my relaxation. I pay for it myself.